Notes, quotes, and sources highlighted. I try to keep my voice. So today I'm going to talk to you about sodium and your health. And so a lot of people think, why should I care about sodium? It's a natural substance, right? So today I want to talk to you about making better choices regarding sodium and its relationship to heart disease. Heart disease is not a joke. It can create some serious health problems and is not restricted to an age. So due to a recent family member's hospitalization, I've had some firsthand extensive counseling with cardiologists, nutritionists, internists, pulmonologists, and nurses, and I've done a bit of research as well. So what I'm presenting to you today will go over the sodium intake and its relationship to our heart health, and as well as a guide for making informed choices in the future and some statistics related to all of this. So let's start with what we thought we know about sodium. I did a survey of this class by SurveyMonkey with 7 questions on it related to our sodium habits. One of the questions I asked was what size of container is equivalent to 2,300 milligrams of sodium? So the choices were a measuring cup, a tablespoon, and a teaspoon. And the correct answer is teaspoon, but only 30% of the class got that right. So just to understand, 2,300 milligrams is the max salt intake that is suggested. And this is 2,300 milligrams showing in my hand on this picture I've got a tea bag there so you can kind of relate the size of what 2,300 milligrams is. And that's the max per day. The recommended amount is 1,500 milligrams, so about half of that per day. So when I asked the class if they watch their sodium when dining out or getting groceries, only 30% said yes. And when I asked if they frequently add salt to foods, 60% said yes. Additionally, when asked what would help convince you to watch sodium intake regularly, one student said, and I'm quoting, "knowing more about the bad effects it can have on your body." So we'll talk about this in a little bit here. The last question I had was, what can manufacturers do to help consumers make healthy decisions? And one reply was to make the nutrition labels larger and highlight things that are particularly important. So actually they're starting to do this. This is a can I had in the cupboard, and on the can they have this area here that I've got circled. And what it is calling out, very plain and very easy to read, is the calories, the fat, the sodium, and the sugars. So now you understand, excuse me. All right, sounds like we could use some education about sodium to understand what it does to our bodies. So let's get started. According to Robert Schmierling from 2014, and I'm quoting, "Too much sodium consumption can increase blood pressure and cause the body to hold on to fluid. High blood pressure is a major risk factor for heart attack, stroke, and other cardiovascular problems. Excess fluid can cause swelling in the legs and even more serious problems such as congestive heart failure in people with poor heart function." So the FDA from 2018, U.S. Food and Drug Administration from 2018 says approximately 56% of adults in the U.S. 18 years and older have high blood pressure. And then along with that, also from the FDA in 2018, approximately 10% of kids in the U.S. have high blood pressure. My own hospital experience with a family member was a 43-year-old with heart failure and swelling in the extremities due to high blood pressure and poor sodium, too much sodium. So now you understand why it's bad. Let's review what we can do to improve our habits. So how do we improve our sodium intake? First, don't add salt at the table or when you're cooking. Instead, flavors foods with herbs, spices, lemon, lime, vinegar, or salt-free seasoning blends. There's Mrs. Dash has a variety of flavors that are pretty good and that don't have salt. That was a suggestion by the American Heart Association from 2017. Consider the sodium levels in all the ingredients you use when you're cooking. soy sauce, for example, ketchup, any soups, those are extremely high in sodium already. Surprisingly, though, most sodium does not come from salt that we add at the table. Most of it comes from what's already in the foods when we bring it to the table. So the best way to reduce sodium, according to the American Heart Association, is to avoid prepackaged, processed, and prepared foods. The Mayo Foundation for Medical Education and Research from 1998 says taste alone may not tell you which foods are high in sodium. For example, you may not think a bagel excuse me, tastes salty, but a typical 4-inch bagel has 600 milligrams of sodium. That's half the recommended daily intake. Some things you can do to help also is to purchase fresh meats. Just watch on the package of meats and make sure that there's not a salt solution added to it. If there is, you can rinse off the meat to remove some of that, but it won't remove all of the added sodium. Get it without the salt solution if you can. Fresh or frozen vegetables are preferred over canned. If you use canned ones, rinse them off before you cook them to remove as much sodium as possible. And then just to note, what some of the worst foods for sodium is breads, rolls, cold cuts, cured meats, pizza, poultry, soups, and sandwiches. So read the labels when you're shopping, but do it with caution. So low or reduced sodium, reduced sodium advertisements on packages just means that there's at least 25% less sodium than the original product. It doesn't mean it's healthy. It just means it's 25% less sodium than the original product. And again, when it says no salt added or unsalted, that doesn't mean there's no sodium in the package at all. It just means while they were preparing it, they did not add any salt. So be careful. Watch where it says sodium and the servings per container. Watch those. 1,500 milligrams per day is the recommended amount. So I hope this quick review of the effects of sodium has helped to educate you and helped you to understand how important it is to your health, and has made you consider taking actions to keep your sodium in check and your heart healthy. Watching your sodium intake can have a strong impact on your health. It can also save you money. So one estimate, and this is by the American Heart Association in 2018, one estimate suggested that if the U.S. population moved to an average intake of 1,500 milligrams per day of sodium from its current level, it could result in a 25.6 overall decrease, 25.6 overall percentage decrease in blood pressure, and an estimated $26.2 billion in healthcare savings. The World Health Organization from 2016 says that an estimated 2.5 million deaths could be prevented each year if global salt consumption were reduced to recommended levels. So those are pretty staggering numbers. And additionally, the World Health Organization from 2016 says that reducing salt intake has been identified as one of the most cost-effective measures countries can take to improve their population health outcomes. So when reducing sodium, it can be a noticeable adjustment first, but soon you won't realize it. The National Kidney Foundation in 2017 states that salt preference is an acquired taste that can be unlearned. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get really used to eating food with much lower sodium levels. But once it's done, it's actually difficult to eat foods that you used to that are high sodium because they'll taste way too salty. So please take control and care of your health, and teach your taste buds to enjoy happier habits. Both your heart and your wallet will thank you.